I paid $15,604 for a single comic book. Do not tell my wife. Don't tell my dad. Don't tell my mom. Just don't tell anyone. But in this video, we're going to take a look at the actual book, why I chose the book that I did, and we're going to take an in-depth look at the Grail market in general, which is perfect timing because I just did a market analysis for the comic book market in general. But the Grail market is on a little bit different of a trajectory. Also, at the end of the video, you're going to get a chance to read the interior pages of Fantastic Four #1. Stay tuned.
Bry's Comics.
Before we get started, I want to remind you that if you sign up for the newsletter over at bryscomics.com, you're entered to win a free slab each and every month, and I just picked the slab for September. It's Spider-Gwen #0 in a CGC 9.8. This reprints Edge of Spider-Verse #2, which was the first appearance of Gwen Stacy as the new Spider-Woman, and just an awesome alternative to that key. Since that is so pricey, this would be an awesome addition to your wall or to your collection in general. And all you have to do is sign up for the newsletter, and every month you stay subscribed, you're entered to win a new free slab. Also, we have a giveaway. If you subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video, you are entered to win Berserker #1 third print foil in a CGC 9.8 and this awesome stack of raw spec books. We have Nice House on the Lake #1 cover B, Recount #1, the Ben Templesmith exclusive, Invincible Iron Man #1, and an Infamous Iron Man #1. So again, just subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video, and you're entered to win these awesome books. So we're going to draw that one when I hit 8K. I'm going to choose a random video, pick a random comment from that video, check that that person is subscribed, and they will be announced as the winner. So without further ado, here it is, the book that I paid over $15,000, Fantastic Four #1 in a CGC 2.5, and we'll get a much better look at it a little bit later here in the video. Just an incredible piece of comic book history. I cannot believe that I actually owned this book. And I want to start out by saying the purpose of this video, because I totally understand the potential that this video has. I mean, screw this guy with his Fantastic Four #1 at 2.5. Screw this guy paying $15,000 for a comic book. I totally get that that is a potential reaction to this video, because that's probably something that I would say. But I think that there is value in this video, first of all, with the Grail market analysis. And second of all, you know, I really hope to just be an encouragement to others to see a book like this and what went into getting it, because this is the culmination of years and years of collecting and flipping and hustling. I mean, so much work has gone on into this. I had to move so much stuff out of my personal collection to make this happen. And I hope that, one, you can share in the joys and the excitement that I'm experiencing with this acquisition, but also maybe it'll help focus your collecting goals. Maybe it'll help you take a step back and think about what is your end game and what are you doing today that is getting you there, and what can you do tomorrow that can get you there. So I hope that that is the result of this video, is that it's an encouragement and it gets you thinking about collecting goals. So first of all, let's take a look at the book. And I'll be damned if this book is not a crack press candidate. It's just, I really wish that I would have got a book like this that had clearly already been pressed and cleaned, but this one clearly has not. You can see right down here that there is a crease going down the book that's not color breaking, that can be pressed out. There's another one right next to it to the right. There's another one up here. There's wrinkling throughout on the front and the back, just tons of wrinkling that could be removed with a press. Also, there's a lot of soiling along the spine and the edge, which is kind of like, it is what it is, because if you look at the paper, I mean, it's really fragile. And so if you were to take any kind of like Absarine sponge or anything that they use to clean comic books and put friction on this cover, it could very easily tear the pages, and it would not be worth the risk. So also you could see some smearing on the back, which there's nothing that can be done about that. And obviously there is a chunk missing out of the front of the cover, and that is concerning to me. I want to look into how high of a can a book get and have a chunk missing like that? Because even if I were to crack and press out all of these wrinkles and creases, um, maybe it still gets a 2.5, and there's also obviously a huge risk when you crack out a book like this. And when you press a book like this, I mean, it could cause the spine to come completely detached. It's so old and fragile, and that, would kill the grade. So it just really might not be worth it. And it's not about greed, it's not about getting every penny out of this book, because this is, an investment and it's not going anywhere. So I'm totally okay with just being happy with the 2.5, but part of it has to do with having the book be in its best case, like doing this book as much justice as it deserves, having it present and be in its best possible condition. So at some point, I may, consider and dive deeper down that rabbit hole, and smash like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because you will obviously be coming along with me on that journey. I'm sure there'll be a lot of learning lessons along the way. So why did I choose Fantastic Four #1? Well, I think that Fantastic Four #1, of all the Grails, of all the major Grails in comic books, has the most potential. And the reason for that, and we'll dive into the numbers here in just a minute, but the reason is it has not seen the kind of gains that the other major Grails have seen. And for me, I narrowed it down to 5 books: Amazing Fantasy 15, first Iron Man, first Thor, first Hulk, or first Fantastic Four. Those were the 5 Grails that, I'm definitely at some point wanting to add to my collection. And I thought that this one has the most potential of all of those. Every time that there is a new movie in the MCU for Spider-Man, and every time that is epic, and in my opinion, every Spider-Man movie that's ever come out is totally epic and I've really enjoyed. And every time a movie comes out for Spider-Man, it boosts the price of AF-15. Every time I watch one of those, I want an AF-15 even more. And so that's why we're seeing such crazy gains for Amazing Fantasy 15. And it's the same for Hulk and Iron Man and Thor. They have these franchises in the MCU, this set of movies that each time the character gets more and more popular. And we have not got that for Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, on the other hand, has actually had some movie flops where they were not done justice, which actually possibly could have hurt the value of these books, but not anymore. Now, Fantastic Four is slated for the MCU. It's confirmed. We know that a Fantastic Four movie is coming to the MCU. And I don't think it's going to be a one and done. I think it's going to be a whole franchise. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of Fantastic Four movies, and we're going to see them, all throughout different projects in the MCU. So, and every time that there's a movie or something like that with the Fantastic Four, this book will start to get those bolsters and prices that it hasn't had historically. So I saw the sales from this year and where they were headed. I know that they're slated for the MCU, and I thought, man, this is probably my last chance to get in at this price. Of course, you can get into any of these books any day of the week. There's something available, but it's really important to time it and try to get the best possible price when you're talking about such astronomical numbers. So I thought this was a great opportunity. Fantastic Four would have been even better 6 months ago, but I wasn't in a position to buy this book 6 months ago. So, I was going on today's numbers. So let's hop into the computer and take a look at some sales data for Grails in general and see what the Grail market is doing. All right, so here we are on GP analysis, and I want to take a look at these 5 Grails that I was considering and their sales data. And the top 5 Grails for me that I was considering getting was Amazing Fantasy number 15, first Spider-Man, Journey into Mystery 83, first Thor, Hulk number 1, first Hulk, Tales of Suspense 39, first Iron Man, and Fantastic Four number 1, first Fantastic Four. And so starting with Amazing Fantasy number 15, this book has been on a crazy ride this year. It's performing really well here in a 3.5, and I'm only going to look at sales from that have sales from August. If you look at all of these other grades, a lot of times, especially in these higher grades, like you won't see a sale since 2017. Like an 8.5 hasn't sold since 2017 or 2011. So I'm only using sales that happen in August, so we have the most current market data. And here in a 3.5 in August, we had a sale of 42,500, which is about the same as it was in June. In June, it sold for $2,000 more. But in my opinion, $2,000 when we're talking about $40,000 book is statistically statistically insignificant, and it could have been because it didn't present as well as the other one. And that is a factor with these lower grade grails, is presentation has a big influence on price, and we'll see a really good example of that here in just a minute. But in the 2.5 grade, we had a sale in August of 30,000, two sales in August of 30,000, and the earliest sale of the year was 19,000. So this book has seen over a 50% increase this year, and the low sale in 2020 was 12,000, which is almost a 200% increase since 2020. And that is the trend that I'm seeing in general for all of these grails, is they've seen about a 50% increase in this year and about a 200% increase from the low of 2020. And we'll see that going forward here. And here's in a 0.5. This one is just crazy. In August, a 0.5 for Amazing Fantasy 15 sold for $24,000, smashing the record from just 2 months ago for $12,000. It's a 100% increase in price in just 2 months, and up from the low sale of 2020 for a 0.5 was 8,500. So about a 200% increase since 2020, and 100% increase this year. And here it actually is. This is the actual book that sold for $24,000. And as you can see, it's a 0.5 that presents really well for a 0.5. And he even says here, when I purchased this book many years ago, I wanted a low-grade affordable copy that presented very well. And, well, it's definitely a low-grade copy that presents well, but is no longer affordable, in my opinion. This is just crazy. The only reason that it's a 0.5 is because there's this huge piece missing out of the back there. And so, but, you know, the most important thing for grails when collectors buy them is that they present well on the front cover, because that's what's going to be displayed and that's what they're going to look at. So for a low grade copy that presents well is really sharky waters for this book, because everybody wants one that presents well. There's no tape, there's no writing, there's no holes. It's complete. The spine is actually intact. It's not detached. All of these things are very rare for a 0.5. And if we look at the other 2.5s that sold this year, here's one that has a massive piece of tape all the way along the side and 2 holes punched through the side. Which is really evident here. You can see the holes. So there's hole punches, there's chunks missing out of the back cover. The spine is completely split, cover detached. And there's 2 holes punched through the book. There's tape on the cover and the interior cover. So, and as you can see, there's even some drawing on it here, and somebody colored in this guy's face and hands. So this book in a 0.5 is just nowhere near this book in a 0.5. And so that's why there's such a drastic spread in the price. And that's something to keep in mind when we look at these numbers on GP analysis, but you can't actually see the book, as there could be some significant issues in presentation. So here is the next one, Journey into Mystery, number 83, first appearance of Thor. And the 6.5 is doing incredibly well. August of this year, a sale of $40,000, which is up over 10% from just earlier this month in August. There was another sale for $36,000. The earliest sale this year was $21,000. So almost 100% increase this year, and the low from last year is almost a 200% increase. So this one is doing particularly well. Now here's a 3.0, much less of a spread. And again, this could have to do with presentation issues, but in August, a 3.0 sold for $10,000. And last year it sold for $4,400 at a low, about 150% increase since last year. And then if we look at a 1.8, August sold for $5,700, and the earliest sale this year was $3,900. So about 40% increase this year, and the low from 2020 was $29,000. So almost 100% from last year. All right, and then we look at Hulk number 1. Here we have a 3.0, and in August, a 3.0 sold for $27,500. The earliest sale this year was $13,200. So that's over 100% increase this year. And since last year, the low was $8,400. So that is over 200% increase from last year. And if you look down here at a 2.0, August, a sale of 14,300. The earliest sale this year was 10,000, so about a 40% increase this year, and not much of an increase since 2019. There was no sales in 2020, and in 2019 it was still around 9,200. So this book in this grade, a 2.0, has actually performed the least of all of these that we're looking at. Tales of Suspense 39, First Iron Man, and here we have a 4.5, and in August a 4.5 sold for 15,000. As you can see, it's still trending way up. The earliest sale this year was 9,500, so over 50% this year, and a low sale of 2020 of 5,000, so exactly 200% increase since last year. And this is that general trend that we're seeing, about 50% this year and about 200% since last year. All right, so here we're going to look at Fantastic Four #1, and here we have a 6.0, and the last sale was July of 2020 for $29,000. And this month, it hasn't updated yet on GP Analysis. It was this sale in August. And that's one of my pet peeves about GP Analysis, is they're about a week or two behind, and that can be incredibly important. But I happened to be watching this one as well and saw that it sold for $42,500. So that's up about 50% from the last sale in 2020. So that is way less of an increase than all of the other grails that we've looked at, only about 50% since last year. Most of the others were up about 200% since last year. Now that we've taken a look at what the grail market is doing in general, let's take a look at what this book in this grade is doing in general, and how I arrived at my price, my max bid for this book. And that's a really important thing to consider when you're making a big purchase like this, or any comic book purchase that you're bidding on in auction, is do your research and come up with your max bid before the end of the auction. Don't wait till you're in the heat of the moment. You'll just make some gut decision, and you could end up paying a lot more for a book, or you could miss out on a good deal. So do your research ahead of time and come up with your max bid. So let's jump in the computer and see how I came up with my max bid. And then here we have the 2.5, which is my purchase, which you can see because it's green, 15,500. And as you can see, this book has been on a roller coaster ride the past 3 years. In fact, in 2021, there was only one sale this year for 9,701. In 2020, there was a high of 10,000. In 2019, there was a high of 10,350. And in none of the other grails that we've looked at have there been sales in 2021 that were anywhere near the sales of 2020 and 2019, which is why I thought that this book hasn't followed the trends that the other grails have, and that it was undervalued. So I knew that I was willing to pay at least 100% more than the sales of 2019. And the average sales for 2019 and 2020 were around $8,000. So comfortably 100% more than that would have been 16,000. But in most cases, those other grails were 200% more than their sales from 2020. I knew I would be totally comfortable with 15,000, 16,000, and I set my bid to 18,000 max bid and ended up getting it for 15,500. Right before the end of my auction, a couple of 2.0s sold. So a 2.0 sold on eBay for $14,544. And so when I looked at that sale, I thought, holy crap, that went up 100%, about 100% this year. And then also another 2.0 sold for $16,000. And so I thought for sure this 2.5 that presents well, I thought it was going to close closer to 20 grand, because if a 2.0 just sold for 16, surely a 2.5 that presents well would have a premium over that. So I actually got a 2.5 for less than the most recent sale of a 2.0. And if you look at the 2.0 that sold on eBay, this is it, for $14,500, $1,000 less than what I paid. And it's just night and day. I mean, it has tape on cover. You can see it's listed there on the label. That's a pet peeve for me. It has tape all the way down the spine. It has major staining. It has tape over here. And on the back, it has tape as well and staining on the back. So when you look at my book here, I mean, there's no tape, no writing. I think some very minimal staining. And so you compare my 2.5 to the $14,500 2.0. And I thought, man, I'm willing to pay a little bit of a premium for this book because look at how good it presents compared to this book. So I wanted to show a couple more examples of how things can drastically differ in presentation. So here we have my 2.5 that I bought. And let's compare it to a 2.0 that is currently at auction right now. So here's a 2.0. It's got tape on interior cover. You can clearly see this huge swath of tape here, huge swath of tape here, heavy standing up at the top, chunk missing out of the side here, which mine also has a chunk missing out right here. Mine is actually a bigger chunk missing. But I would argue that it's a less important part of the cover. So right here, it kind of goes in with his arm. You have to kind of search for it to see that chunk, whereas this chunk is right on the 10-cent price tag. And to me, that's really important. I love to be able to see that this was a 10-center. It's an integral part of the book, in my opinion. You can also see a bunch of different, chunks, Marvel chipping, whatnot coming out of the side. 2.0 problems, but just night and day when you compare the two together like that. This one does have a really good color strike. This one has really nice dark colors all the way around, which is something that I think mine has as well, as a really good color strike, some really nice deep colors. But here is a 6.0. And when you compare 6.0 to my 2.5, I mean, at first glance, when you go back and forth, I mean, obviously the 6.0 is way better, but this 6.0 was sold in the exact same auction for 42,500. This is a really nice 6.0. It presents really well. I'm not taking away from that book. I'm just saying that for a 2.5, it's kind of crazy that you can look at the 2.5 and the 6.0 and kind of make comparisons between the two. All right, now here's a 9.4, and this is one of the top 5 graded copies of Fantastic Four #1 in the world. It's listed for sale for $650,000, and I would almost argue that this has a little bit of sun fading. It's either sun faded a little bit or it's like a weak color strike. I mean, when you compare it to my 2.5, it's like the color strike on my 2.5 is almost like darker. It's also different images. They were taken by different devices, and that plays into it too. But just to show you how my 2.5 compares next to one of the top 5 graded examples in the world. And I'm not taking away from this 9.4. I'm not trying to over pump up my 2.5. I'm just trying to make a point that books present in different ways. And a lot of them have, different things that could be more important to you than others. Like maybe color strike is the most important thing. And this 2.0 has a really good color strike. I mean, look at how dark the thing is down at the bottom. This is a really good color strike. Look at the trade dress color strikes. Maybe that's the most important thing to you, and you don't really care about tape. Just a comparison of how things can present so much differently. So leave a note down in the comments below, guys. I want to know your opinion. What do you think about cracking, pressing, resubmitting for another grade? Do you think this has a chance at a grade bump? Should I just never ever do that and just keep it in the grade that it is? I'd like to hear from you guys. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and leave a like on this video, and you're entered to win that awesome giveaway for Berserker #1 third print CGC 9.8 and that stack of spec books. Thank you so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. Thank you for sharing with me in this journey, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.
Bry's Comics.